Good morning and welcome to my home away from home. One day I'm going to say soon, welcome to Shiloh Farm, because that's my goal and that's what I'm working for. And we are working toward that, and I'm telling you, we're making a transformation at my little tiny house. And I'm so thankful we're going to accommodate it, that it will be much easier for me to get around and to do and to see, and that I don't get hurt in there. So I'm so excited about what's happening in the next few days, and I'm just so grateful for your support, your encouragement, your love, your hugs, the things you say to me that pushes me forward, that pushes me onward. And I am going to say this, really being honest, that I think that a lot of my recovery is coming out of this, is knowing that I had you to fall on, that I had you to commit myself to, that I had you in the middle of my dedication, that I could say, okay, I'm called to y'all, I'm called to this. And it helped me to come out a whole lot quicker and a whole lot better than I think an average person, because I was determined that I had something to come out of for. Thank you so much. I want to talk to you about resting. I know you say, well, Phyllis, you've got 5 weeks out of one surgery and 4 weeks out of another one. Haven't you rested enough? There's a rest in God, because I have really had to put some things in His hands and leave it there. One of the things is that whenever I had the surgery, I did not know that it was going to be in depth as it was. Whenever they removed the cancer, in one day, 3 major surgeries on my face, 2 lymph nodes removed, and a chunk in my back. I didn't know that it was going to happen when I woke up from the surgery. And so I had to come to grips that I was not going to be able to go back home. And so I had to stay with my youngest daughter and her husband. And then I moved over with my daughter Jessica and her and my grandbaby Peyton. And so I had to make some decisions, and the decisions were not easy. I kicked, I fought, I struggled. All of it was within, because outside there was nothing I could do. I was as helpless as I could be. And the rest was that I had to submit to the will of God. I had to submit to those that loved me, that was making decisions for me. I remember when me and my sister Kathy, we had to make decisions for our dad, like, you can't drive anymore. And when we had to take his keys, it was horrible. Or when we said, Dad, you can't come back to the home after Mom died, and he had to be in assisted living. It was horrible to take those things from him. And I was reminded of that when they had to take things from me. The first thing was that I could not go back home. I could not go back to Shiloh in the ministry. I could not be around the children. I couldn't be around the animals. I had to rest knowing that everybody was going to take care of me. And I had to rest in the knowledge that, okay, God, this is it. This is where I have to be. This is what I have to do. And I had to stop kicking and screaming. And so the next thing, after a week later, I had to go back in and do reconstructive surgery. They told me it would be a long time before I could, see anything and do anything. And that I had to stay again. And I had to, when I came back, I couldn't see. I couldn't eat. I couldn't function. I was as more helpless then as I ever had been. And I had to come into another rest. And the rest was not within me, because I couldn't rest. I was walking the floors. I was racked with pain. I was hurting. I could not sleep. I could not rest. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't lay down. And I had to sit on pillows elevated all the time, so my face would be elevated so it would keep the blood flow. And it's been that way ever since I've had surgery. And it will continue to be that way for a while. And so there's a rest that you have to have, that you say, I'm not going to kick and scream anymore. I'm not going to fuss and fight. This is how it is. This is what it is. And this is a season. It's not forever. And I've got to do what people are telling me to do. That's for best. I've got to do what the doctors are saying. That's for best. But you also have to do what God says. And God had to work in me to just stop and let Him do it, and let Him use hands to do it for me and to help me. And I had to enter into that rest. So I want to read something to you It's in Hebrews, the Amplified Bible, chapter 4, verse 3. It says, "For we who have believed," that's us believers, "adhered to and trusted in and rely on God, do enter that rest." There's a place when you have to submit. There's a place when you have to just wave the white flag. There's a time when you just have to just say, okay, I give up. I give up. But it's not giving up into wrong things. It's not giving up into compromise. It's giving up to surrender. I'm going to enter your rest, God. I'm not going to plea bargain anymore. I'm not going to fight with you anymore. I'm not going to struggle. I'm just going to enter a rest. And this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going through. Whether it's a divorce or the loss of a job, or whether it's something happening in your home or something happening inside of you physically, I'm going to enter your rest. And in the Message it says, if we believe, though, we'll experience that state of resting. If we believe, if we surrender. And I'll tell you why I had to surrender. I'll tell you why I had to give it up. Because I had to trust His Word. I had to trust His Word. And in the Word, it tells us that in the times that I am racked with pain, in the times that I'm struggling, in the times that I'm fighting with myself, and I'm frustrated because I can't see, and I can't talk, and I can't read the Word, and I can't do the devotions, and I had to come off the videos, and I can't write the devotions anymore. I had to know this Word. And in the Word, in Psalm 32, verses 6 and 7, it says that you, God, will surround me with songs and shouts of deliverance. And the Spirit of God will help me. He will help me in my weaknesses. So in the middle of the times that I was so helpless, I had to say, God, you're going to sing songs of deliverance over me. You are going to shout songs of deliverance over me. Another time is that you're going to help me to enter into your rest. And then I would cut on the Word on YouTube, and it would just be healing scriptures over and over. I would listen to men and women of God who were people of faith, who were strong and anointed, and I would listen to it over and over and over, and I would get it into my spirit. I would get it into my whole being, so that the fight was not as bad. When I would start wrestling and when I would start fighting and saying, I got to get out of here and I got to hurry up and go, I got to hurry up and get stronger, I would start pushing myself and forcing myself, and I would work myself in such a frenzy that I was such a mess, and I was emotionally so disturbed, and I was getting at the place where I was wanting to just bust loose. God would say, you're not in my rest. You're not in my Word. You're not walking in my Word. You're not walking it out in faith. You're not trusting me. You're fighting against me. You're fighting against yourself. You're causing yourself to be such ruckus. I want to tell you something. Whenever I went to get a biopsy in the very beginning, they knew I had cancer before they ever sent it off. And then before I had surgery that morning, I had to go lay on a table, and they did 6 injections right where they knew the cancer was. I laid there in such pain and such distress. My daughter was sitting there through it all and praying for me. And she said she knew I was so tormented with pain and how excruciating it was, because my body was reacting and I couldn't even control my body because it was in such trauma. And I could feel the grinding and the needles, and I could feel the dye and the radiation going through, and I felt it going through here and here and in my back, and I could sense, and I knew that they were looking at the screen, and they didn't have to say anything. I knew right then there was cancer spreaded. And I knew right after that they were going to have me to go shuttle me over and do the surgery. And I knew then, and my daughter said she sat there and saw the places where the lymph nodes had to be removed, the face had to be moved, and on my back, and they were going to do it all at one time. And that's not something you look forward to, but the doctors kept saying, now, how do you feel about this? And I was just quiet. Because I was in a rest. I was in peace, knowing that, God, whatever I've got to go through, I'm entering your rest. I'm just relaxing in you. And it was just crazy how that was. I want to read something to you because this is important. And this is in Hebrews 4, verses 10 through 12. And I love the Amplified. And it says, "For he who has once entered God's rest also has ceased from the weariness and pain of human labors. Let us therefore be zealous and exert ourselves and strive diligently to enter that rest of God, to know and experience it for ourselves, that no one may fall or perish by the same kind of unbelief and disobedience." There's rest. There's peace in obedience, into which those in the wilderness fell. Those that was traveling in the wilderness 40 days and 40 years, they were not in his rest, and they perished and they wasted by the wayside. And it says, "For the word that God speaks is alive and full of power." That's what was helping me to be in his rest. And it's active and operative and energizing and effective. It is sharper than any two-edged sword, penetrating to the dividing line of the breath of life, which is the soul, and the immortal, the spirit, and of joints and marrow of the deepest parts of our nature, exposing and sifting, analyzing and judging the very thoughts and purposes of the heart. So during the time that I was in his rest, during the time that I was helpless, God was working a work in me. It wasn't to no avail. It wasn't for no purpose. All the darkness and all the pain and all the fighting and struggling, it was just sifting out and removing my will and placing God's will in my life. So what are you going through? What are you fighting against? What are you struggling with? What is the enemy taking occasion of? Because the enemy was taking occasion of my weakness. And I finally surrendered. And you know what? There was things the enemy, when I was so determined that I'm going to submit and I'm not moving back. And I can't go back to Shiloh. And I can't read my devotions. And I can't write my devotions. Then whenever I got strong enough, God says, "Now you can go do a video." What? Like this? Like this? But submission and the rest of God is that you don't care. You don't care what people say. Oh my goodness. After you go through something like this, I don't care what people say. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter, because I'll tell you why. I'm the one that has walked this out. I'm the one that has had to submit. I'm the one that has had to enter his rest. I've had to say, "Okay, God, whatever." And it got to a place when people would say, "Now this is what you got to do, whatever." And they'd say, "Well, Mom, how do you feel? Or what do you think about it?" There's nothing I can say. I mean, whatever y'all say is best for me. I'm telling you, I was full of life. I was full of his spirit. But I did realize that I was so quiet, like a lamb before slaughter. When I hear how Christ was like a lamb before slaughter, it's like, I know I've got to have these surgeries. I know I've got to have recovery. And I know that I can't live at home. And little by little, I was able to go sit with the children. And then I was able to start driving. Then I was able to start feeding the animals. And now I'm going to start moving back into my home soon. I'm telling you, you don't understand. It was baby steps, but they were real steps and big steps. And it was like I was having to start all over how to see. And I still am. And you see the magnifying glass, and some people are laughing, and not bad at me. They're laughing at, because they say, "I can't believe you're on there still doing stuff like that." But I want to tell you, I want to beat all odds. But it's not because it's in my strength, it's in his strength. So what are you struggling with today? Say, "God, I want to enter into your rest. I want to stop kicking and screaming. I want to, for we who believed," that's us, that's you, that's me, adhere to, we're attentive to it, and we trusted in and rely on God, we do enter his rest. You're going to enter his rest, but you got to surrender. You got to surrender to what you want. You got to surrender to your plans. You got to say, "Okay, God, what do you want? What do you want?" That's what I had to do. I had to say, "God, what do you want?" I mean, how's this thing going to turn around? How am I going to come out of this? Because it's all unknown. It's all unknown. And then when people speak words against you, and people speak curses over you, and people speak, death over you, and people speak words that pierce the heart and that tries to stop the faith moving in you, you just have to say, okay, God, I surrender, and I just ask you to do what has to be done. I'm praying for you today. I'm praying that you'll enter a rest, that you'll just stop and be at peace. Be at peace with yourself. Be at peace with God. Be at peace with those that are around you. Just say, I surrender, God, in the right way. It's not surrender to give up, not surrender to quit, but it's surrender to move forward in His timing, in His way, in His will. God bless you, and I love you. And share this video, but also share this. It's on YouTube, and it's under Phyllis Lynn Henson, because there's people that's not on Facebook, and they are not social media. And so you want to send this message, tell them to go to YouTube and look at Phyllis Lynn Henson's videos. God bless you.